So let's get into personal branding and how to scale that. All right. Let's get into value-based pricing. I just want to clarify what that is. It is a pricing strategy which sets prices primarily, but not exclusively, according to the perceived or estimated value of a product or service to the customer, rather than according to the cost of the product or historical prices. This is what, hands down, has helped me scale my business, where in 2017, I worked with 48 clients. 2018, I worked with 8, and I superseded 2017's revenue goals by $28,000. So this is powerful stuff. And this is why I have to have it in this course. So here's the docs tips before entering any sales conversation. We always want, and this is why I don't know why, but I absolutely love this stuff. We always have to stay diagnosing. The one who is asking all the questions is the one that, I hate to use the word wins, but the one that holds the frame and positions themselves as the subject matter expert. We never want to show up with an agenda. We definitely want to try to kill the engagement at least 3 times to show that we're not desperate and that we do not need this work. That is very hard to swallow. I fumbled on this many sales calls before I finally got it right. So give yourself time, give yourself some leeway here. The minute you take away the opportunity, they want it more. And so we try to kill, and I'll show you ways to do this nicely. And they won't even really feel it, but they won't even see it, but they'll feel it, right? And then the mindset is, I'm here to serve, I'm not here to sell, right? This is how you show up on all of your sales calls or your consultative sales calls, and you're already setting yourself up to win, okay? You want to establish rapport. I am literally giving you what I say on these calls. So here's how I set the call up. They pay $100 for this call, and it's typically set for 30 minutes. I get them on the call. I say, hey, how you doing? Where you're from? Blah, blah, blah. We shoot the F, we shoot the shit a little bit, and then we get into that. Before we get started, I want to hear everything you have to say, but first I want to set the agenda of the call. And they're like, okay, this is your game. I want to get inside your head. I want to understand what inspires you, what your vision is, the promises that you make to your clients. I'm not going to be any good to you unless I can help you deliver that. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and depending on how you answer them and how well we get along on this conversation, trying to kill the engagement once, we'll decide whether or not we move forward. Is that fair? They didn't even know that you tried to kill that engagement, but you did, because you said, I don't know if I want to work with you yet. Okay. So now here's some questions, some rapport building questions to ask. How'd you find me? You always want to ask that question, because they will tell you, oh, so a lot of the ClickFunnels people, they'll say, I Googled ClickFunnels expert and you came up. Good to know. Now I know that is a high ranking keyword search, right? If they say Instagram, ooh, good. Triple down on Instagram. So you want to know where they found you. Get it out of the horse's mouth. How long have you been in business? Just ask them. What were you doing before that? These are genuine questions. And then, do you have a partner? This question is important, because if they have a partner and they're not on the call, you probably want to reschedule the call. And if they say, yeah, and you say, hey, can we get them on the phone? And if they say no, then tell them, I typically don't do these conversations without all the key decision makers on the call. Why? Because I don't want to do this all over again, or even try to have you articulate what it is that I tell you on this call. Chances are things are going to get missed in communication. And then they'll say, all right, let me see if I can get him on the phone or get her on the phone. Or they'll say, no, I'm the person that makes the decision. Okay, great. Let's move forward. Because you don't want to go through this whole process and then say, oh, I got to talk to my partner. You just wasted time and their time. So ask that question. Okay, here's where we are going to ask these questions. These are the diagnosing questions that are going to help you set up the entire conversation and value-base this whole conversation out. Why'd you reach out to me in the first place? What challenges are you facing right now? What'd you try already? If you could try anything, if money wasn't the issue, what would you do? And then you want to encourage them to tell you more. Say, and what else? What else would you do? And in the meantime, I never do one of these console calls without a pad and a pen. You want to be taking notes at all times. You want to write all this stuff down. And then which of these options interest you the most? Take some notes. And then you say, what might stand in the way of this idea? And what could be done about it? So they'll start to give you reasons why, right? And then you'll say, well, what's the one step you could have took to begin acting on some of these solutions right away? And now they'll start to come up with some solutions. So you're helping them get to where they need to be already. Now, we didn't talk about any specific solutions yet. We're just coming up with ideas. Then the next question I want to ask them is, what business are you really in? So if you were to ask me that question 5 years ago, I would have said, I'm in the design business. What else business am I in? Now, if you ask me that question, I say, I'm in the confidence building business. I build brands to build confidence in my clients so that they can go on to scale and build tremendously impactful brands. That's the brand. That's the business I'm in. I'm in the confidence building business. Who wouldn't triple down on some more confidence in their life? Maybe Donald Trump. But that's what you want to get down to. You want to get down to what business are they really in? And let them speak. Don't cut them off. Just see what comes out of their mouths. Here's some other great questions. What is the main thing that draws customers to you right now? See what they say. Then you ask them, what are you really trying to accomplish here? And then just let them talk. The next set of questions. Well, what do you think's getting in your way? Why haven't you gotten to where you want to be? And then they'll tell you, and then you say, if we don't fix this problem, how much is it going to cost you in missed opportunity and revenue? That is a powerful question. They're going to say millions. They're going to say time. They're going to say all these things, and you better write all of these down. Then you're going to ask them, well, I just want to get an idea. And this question here is going to tell me whether or not I want to do business with them, to be honest with you. I'm going to say, what are the 3 things that matter most in business to you? If they say what you can do for me or making money, red flag. Yes, it's important. Yes, it's important. You have to make money to be profitable. But if it's the first thing they say, be careful. And if they say, well, it's what the other person could do for me, another red flag. Now, I typically don't get those answers a lot. I'll get results for my clients. I'll get impact. I want to change people's lives, integrity. I'll get those types of answers. And I'll say, okay, this person has a good head on their shoulders. Here's another great question. What are the top 3 objections or challenges customers have before choosing you as a vendor or a service provider, whatever? And that stumps them. A lot of times they'll say price, which is fine. But a lot of times, sometimes I don't even get answers. And I'll say, oh, we got a problem here, don't we? We need to really figure this out. Or if these are the objections, why are they objecting? And then that's another conversation. So here's where you actually define the value. So I'll ask, how much money do you want to make in the next year? And they'll say, I'm going to use easy numbers, guys. They'll say 100 grand. I'll say, okay, how many clients what is one client worth to you? Let's just keep numbers easy. 10 grand. Okay, so you only need to work with 10 clients and you got your million. Yep. Or 100, I'm sorry. You're 100 grand. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so good news. I got an idea of what you're trying to do. Okay. So then I'll ask some questions like, how are you currently standing out from your competition from a branding standpoint? 99.9% of the time they tell me I'm not. Okay, we got a problem here, boss. How have you positioned your brand to connect with your ideal client? I'm not. That's why I'm on the phone with you, Henry. Okay, another problem. Those two really define and establish the need. Those two questions tremendously. Now you might have to plug in some things that are going to be relevant to your program or your niche, but I'm just using mine, right? What's the one thing you're doing right now that's a complete waste of time? I always get a chuckle out of this question. And they'll say, oh, I'm trying to do it all myself. Okay, great. This is good information for me. What do customers care about that you don't give enough thought or attention to? Oh, wow, I never thought of that question before. All right, well, let's talk about it. And then what's keeping you from creating greater value for your customers today? 9 times out of 10, I'll get the answer, I just don't know what I don't know, and I don't know what to do next. Okay, fair enough. So here's where we really start to dig a little deeper into the value-based positioning / pricing. So this I learned from Dan Sullivan, and this is the question. So imagine you and I start working together today. I teach you everything I know and do everything that I can to get you the best results. Now imagine we're sitting in a coffee shop a year from now, and I'll ad lib a little bit, and we're looking back on the previous year. What would have had to happen in your life, both personally and professionally, for you to feel happy with the progress that you've made? What's going to make you believe that this was the best decision you ever made, hiring Henry? And then shut up. I will tell you this. If they refuse to answer this question, just get off the phone with them. They're not a good fit. I'll tell you that clear as day. Just get off the phone with them. I've never had anybody not answer me this question except for one person in 12 years. Okay? So now what you want to do is make a list. Make a list of everything that they say. Right? And then I want you to go back and I want you to say, why do you want to blank? Why do you want to blank? And here's where we get super granular. Why do you want to blank? And rinse and repeat this for each want that they mention. It's a little tedious, but this is going to open up a huge amount of understanding for you and diagnosis for you to really help you put yourself in the better positioning for the sale. Okay. So what we want to do, and I got this from Blair Enns. I don't want to steal by any means. I forgot the reference's name, but Blair Enns talks about creating the desired future state. So when you ask that question, they're future pacing. They're telling you everything that they want to experience if they began working with you. So once you go through the why you want all of that and get a real understanding for that, you want to ask them, well, how are we going to measure the success of blank? How are we going to measure the success of blank? How are we going to measure the success of blank? And do all of that individually. Now you have to have patience here. But they're going to tell you the measuring, the metrics. And this is going to give you some really great intel. All right. And you're going to just write it all down. And then I want you to ask this question. I want you to think of the resources, the connections, the talents, the skills you have access to that you're not currently utilizing 100% that we could use to help overcome your problems that you just mentioned to achieve your goals? What are some of those things? And they'll just let you have it, right? And then write them all down. Keep encouraging. What else? What else? What else? Because the answer is typically right underneath their nose. They just can't see it. So then you want to take a second and say, okay, so let's review this for a second. It looks like you know exactly what you want. You told me you want blank because of blank. Now, you haven't been able to achieve this before primarily because of blank and blank. So for that client that on Monday that I spoke to, or Tuesday that I spoke to, he hasn't been able to achieve the level of success in his brand because he doesn't know who his ideal client is. So what you are doing is you are committing them to the need and to that future desired state by doing all of this. This is powerful psychology. So the next question I will ask is, so how much, whatever they're, say it's money. So how much money do you think we'll make? Notice how I use the words we, not you, we. We're a team. We're a team. How much money do you think you'd make or we'd make if we're able to eliminate all these obstacles and leverage these resources? They're going to say millions. They're going to say 500,000 or 100,000. Okay, great. Write that number down, right? And then here's where I would go in and start sharing some stories because people love stories. So I'll say something like, one of the things one of my clients, Dom Fawcett, really liked about the Brand Accelerator program is that it literally gave him the framework and system to take his brand from literally nothing to something in a 5-month period, right? When Brenly Shapiro started to work with less clients and make more money, she was originally charging $250 an hour. We repositioned her. Now she's charging $2,000 an hour. She accredited all of this to the Brand Accelerator program because we taught her value-based pricing, and we taught her that not every client is the right client, and if you raise your prices, you'll be able to scale. And we told her how to do it and what to do. Now they're like, I want that. Show me that. And then you got to set expectations. I kind of got into this before, and now I'll hammer it home. Here's where we got to qualify them. We got to set our boundaries. We got to say straight up front, we can't help everybody. And we're very selective with who we work with. Try to kill the engagement a second time. All right? They don't even know it. So I'll say, clients that get great results from us, they trust who they hire and hire who they trust. And then I'll say something like, does that make sense? And they'll say yes. And I'll say, okay. So let me ask you a question. What would make you a great candidate for the Brand Accelerator program? Instead of me saying, why should I take you on as a client? Because that's a bit harsh. I would say something like, what makes you a great candidate for the Brand Accelerator program? And now they start to sell themselves. Well, I take action. I do this, I do that. Okay, good. So I take all that down. Or they'll say something like, you know what? I don't know if I'm a great candidate because I don't know too much about your program yet. So I'll say, okay, let me demonstrate that for you real quick. So I'll talk to them and I'll say, listen, the Brand Accelerator program is a 3-step process. I'll explain to them how it works, and I will promise them the deliverables that they'll get after they graduate from it. And then they'll say, okay, I got it. And then I'll say, okay, well, now let me ask you again. what makes you a great candidate for the program, right? And then let them sell themselves, okay? So after that, you gotta talk about price, right? So here's how I typically lay it all out. So I'll say, well, let's talk about price now. So most people would expect this type of service to be upwards around 30 to 50,000. And you could play around with these numbers, right? I've had customers get estimates as high as $100,000 in the past. Listen, my mentor charges $130,000 for strategy. It's amazing. And he gets it, right? But I'll say, because of our size, system efficiencies, my program is a blank investment. And so here's what I will do. I just remembered, I got to add this in. So remember when they say that they want to make 100 grand they want to make 100 grand in the next year? My next question would be, out of that $100,000 that you want to make in the next year, what are you comfortable with investing in to get you there? What percentage of that 100,000 to help you get to that place? And they will say 20%. I said, that's about average. Most of my clients spend about 20% on their branding to get them to wherever that revenue goal is. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're comfortable with spending 20 grand to get you to that $100,000 mark. They'll say yes. I'll say, okay, great. So the good news is I'm not going to charge you 20 grand. I'm going to charge you 15. And I will help you get to that $100,000 mark. Do you see just, now that was some Jedi stuff right there. But do you see how they valued the base price? You didn't come to them with some arbitrary price. That's how you scale. It's powerful stuff. So people are going to be like, well, isn't that price discrimination? No. Because guess what? Here's what happened. I'll tell you a quick story. Tropicana, okay, let me go back. Yeah. Tropicana spent $1 million on their branding redesign of the Tropicana logo. In 2 months, they lost $40 million in revenue. $40 million. Now, this isn't proven, but my guess is that people couldn't find the orange juice because the branding was off and it didn't look like the old Tropicana logo. So they just couldn't find the orange juice box, the Tropicana, and they went with someone else. Now, same company that owns Tropicana is PepsiCo. Okay? PepsiCo goes to do a redesign. So anyway, long story short, they put the Tropicana branding back to normal and they're okay, right? So they spent $1 million and lost 40. Awful. Now, it comes time to rebrand the Pepsi logo. They spent, I think, close to $5 or $6 million to redesign. It was a redesign. It wasn't even a full-blown, I'm sorry, it was just a level up from what it was. They spent like $5 million. Why? Because they were afraid to make that same risk that they made with Tropicana. Now, So that's a huge risk for Tropicana. Now, take the bodega down the street. They don't have that kind of risk in their life. So they're not going to spend that kind of money to mitigate that risk. So you have to price accordingly. You know, I always use this example. You're not going to charge General Motors in Michigan the same price for a logo design that you're going to charge Schumacher Chevrolet in town. Why? Because GM has a hell of a lot more to lose if that logo flops than Schumacher Chevrolet in town. That's value-based pricing. Okay? So definitely want you to understand that. Okay? And that's where I want to have you guys now start to let your clients determine the price. Now, here's on the flip side, right? You get to say, you ask that question and they say 5%. So then you say, okay, so if I do the math, you're only willing to pay $5,000 to help you make $100,000. So you're only willing to invest 5% of your time, money, and energy into generating six figures? Do you think that's enough to get you there? Oh, I never even thought of it that way. You know what? 20 grand sounds a lot more. It sounds like I'm going to get a lot more return on that. So there, they just so anchor the price high based on what they tell you that percentage they're willing to invest in. So if they say 20, you want to anchor at 50 or 60, right? And then the 20,000 seems small, all right? So